Born May 16, 1956 in Anniston, Alabama, Keith Butler played linebacker at Memphis State, where he made All-American his senior year. He was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks in the 1978 NFL Draft and played 10 seasons in Seattle, his 813 tackles ranking him among the franchise's all-time leaders in that category. After retiring from the NFL, Butler began his coaching career. He served as an assistant at his alma mater, Memphis, and later Arkansas State before joining the Cleveland Browns as linebackers coach. In 2003, Butler got the opportunity of a lifetime being hired as linebackers coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He served in that capacity for 9 seasons before being promoted to defensive coordinator. While in Pittsburgh, he won a Super Bowl with head coach Bill Cowher and one with head coach Mike Tomlin. Ladies and gentlemen, the Legends welcomes 2-time Super Bowl champion and 2025 inductee of the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame, Keith Butler. So you're hired in Pittsburgh in 2003 as the linebackers coach, and you finished your career in 2021 as the defensive coordinator.
Right.
And during that time, and sort of amazingly, you only worked for 2 head coaches, and 2 outstanding ones at that, Mike Tomlin and Bill Cowher.
Right.
How are these 2 coaches similar, and how are they different in terms of their approach and their overall coaching style?
It's kind of hard they are totally different. Bill hired me from Cleveland, and I'd gone to Cleveland. Let me give you a base of what my thought process was when I got into coaching. And we had 3 boys. My wife and I had 3 boys, and my family was more important to me than anything else. And I was concerned about getting in the coaching business and moving every year. I didn't want to do that. I wanted my boys to develop friends and be able to develop friends in junior high and elementary and stuff like that, and know them all their life like I did. I was able to stay in Huntsville, Alabama, and go to school there all my life. And then I didn't want to get into the coaching business and turn around and move every year. Sometimes I couldn't help it. Sometimes I needed to move on. And so when I got to the end of my career at Seattle, I went back to Memphis and finished my degree. I hadn't finished the whole thing yet, and finished my degree. And after I finished my degree, I got a job at the University of Memphis. Chuck Stobart hired me. And my thought at that point in time was become the linebackers coach, eventually become the defensive coordinator, and eventually become the head coach. That's what I wanted to do. And that's what I was going to try to do at Memphis and live in Memphis. My wife was from Memphis. That's where I met her. I met her in school in Memphis. And so my thought process was to try that and spend my career in one place and keep my boys in one place. We had 3 boys, and then of course it doesn't always work out the way you want to, and it doesn't work out the way God wants you to work out.
You're just too good. You had to move up.
No, the fact that Mike Tomlin taught me a bunch of stuff during my career, and he, when I was at Memphis, he came to Memphis and was a GA, graduate assistant at Memphis for us, and he had played wide receiver in college. He came to us after he'd played wide receiver there, and he was a defensive back coach, assistant defensive back coach, as a graduate assistant for us. And so he was there for, graduate assistants, you can only be there for a year or 2 until you get your degree, and then you have to move on. And so he moved on to Arkansas State. And he went over there, and he convinced me that the coach at the time in Memphis was a guy named Rip Shearer. Rip Shearer came and rehired me after Chuck Stobart had hired me, because I wanted to stay there as much as I could. And then Mike kept telling me, he says, "Hey man, Rip is looking over his shoulder at you. He's never going to make you the defensive coordinator." And he convinced me of that. And so I left and went over to Arkansas State as a defensive coordinator. and I stayed there for 1 year, and then they started the franchise back at Cleveland. Chris Palmer at the time was the head coach, and he wanted to interview me for the linebacker job, and so I went up there and interviewed, and my thought process at that point in time was, hey, okay, he's starting the franchise back. Surely they're going to keep this guy, about 8 or 9 years. But the NFL, things change quite a bit every year. And so I went up there with Chris, and then after 2 years they fired him. And then they hired Butch Davis at the time. And Butch, I was the only one he kept over from that staff. So I stayed with Butch for 2 years. Then after 2 years, my contract was up, and then Bill Cowher called me and asked me to come over to interview for the job. So my thought process in that too was, hey, Pittsburgh Steelers are stable as they come in the NFL.
3 head coaches in 50 years.
Yeah, and that made a big difference to me in terms of where I wanted to go and stuff and what I wanted to do. So I went over there, and I think I was with Bill for 4 or 5 years before Mike was hired. And then Mike, when Bill retired, Mike calls me up and says, "Hey man, I'm going to interview for the job there." And so he ends up getting the job there. As he got the job there, we had Dick LeBeau as a coordinator, and Dick LeBeau is a great coordinator. I mean, he's a great football coach, and I learned a lot from him. I had a couple of different offers in terms of being the defensive coordinator other places besides Pittsburgh Steelers. Ken Wisenhunt offered me the job in Nashville, and then he also offered me the job at the Arizona Cardinals when he was there. And we ended up beating Arizona Cardinals in Super Bowl 43 in the Super Bowl. And so I ended up staying at Pittsburgh all that time. And then it ended up being 19 years at Pittsburgh. And then I wanted to try to, I've got 3 sons, and we won 2 Super Bowls. I was going to try, I thought the best chance for us to win the Super Bowl was at Pittsburgh and than any other place in the NFL. So that's the reason I stayed there the whole time. Instead of, there's always things that come up. People want to pay you more money. They want to make you the defensive coordinator, stuff like that. Stuff that you could easily move, but I didn't want to move at the time. My boys were still getting in and out of school. They were starting to get in college now, so I tried to stay there as much as possible, and then retired, 3 years ago.
Tomlin personally.
Yeah.
What is he the serious guy that we think he is, or
no?
Tell us. I mean, he's got the aviator glasses on.
Oh,
He doesn't smile much on the sideline.
No,
What's he like personally?
Well, he's all business and business. You know what I mean? But he's really a great guy.
Yeah.
He is. He's got to coach in the NFL. You got to make some hard decisions for guys that you like, guys that you want to keep around and stuff like that. But he did whatever he had to do in terms of trying to keep a coaching staff together, in terms of trying to win Super Bowls and stuff like that, and trying to get the Super Bowls. So he did whatever he could to do all that, and then he learned as he went. I'm sure Tony Dungy probably had a big effect on him when he was down at Tampa Bay, and I know he did, because Tony's a great football coach and a good guy, good people, Christian, and there's a lot of those in the type of guys in the National Football League. Not all, but he was, and it was a big effect on Mike at the time. And so, Mike, NFL, you try to figure it out all the time. Things changes, and he's still doing that. He's still trying to figure out what's best for him and what's best for the team, and what's the best way to win another Super Bowl. How to get past one one round, because everybody's on him about, he hadn't been past the first round in 7, 8 years, something like that. I think the last time we did it, we beat Kansas City, as a matter of fact, and the last time we survived the first round. But everybody's on him about that right now, and he's trying to do whatever he can to make the team better and give them a chance to get the Super Bowl again.
For those of us like me who will never see the inner workings of an NFL team, walk us through your preparation for a Sunday football game. Take us inside the team meetings, the film rooms. Paint us a little bit of a picture of what that's like for you on a weekly basis.
Well, the first thing we tried to do to prepare was put everything to bed. And what I mean by that is the previous game that you played, you had to take care of that first, and so you had to watch it together as a defensive staff, and to make sure everybody's on the same page and what they're teaching and what the guys are trying to read and stuff like that. And so we try to get that put to bed as quick as possible, and then move on to the next people. And the way we do that is we study. I always tried to separate them because I didn't like to mix teams together, because it always got me messed up in my head. And, well, that's the other team and all that stuff. So I always try to put it off until Wednesday or Tuesday. Tuesday would be our biggest day to game plan. And so what I ended up doing was I did all of my studying on Tuesday, and it took a long time. We worked 80-hour weeks. That's the only thing I didn't like about coaching. I didn't get as much time to spend with my family and stuff like that. But to study your opponent and know your opponent, I always try to keep them separate and never let one get into the other. Even when we play on Monday nights, I didn't like to do that. So I always spent the amount of time that if I had to spend 20 hours staying up that day, then that's what I did. And so we tried to figure out what people do best and try to take care of what they do best and shut that down if we can defensively. And then we tried to. I learned a lot from a guy named Tom Catlin. Tom Catlin was a defense coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. And he always talked about situational football. And situational football to us was, what did they do on first down? And then if they were successful or they weren't successful on first down, then what did they do on second down? For instance, if they had a run on first down and was less than 3 yards, what did they do on second down? Second, 7 to 10. What did they do then? So he did that, and I found that was probably the best thing to go at and see what people are doing, because it gave you a chance. It gave you an understanding of what they try to do to catch up. And so I kind of went on that quite a bit and designed plays and calls that I would use in those situations. So you always had first and second down, or what we call mixed downs, and then we had third down, which is always big if you can win third down. And then you got into red zone, you got into goal line, you got into all this situational stuff, and then you had to cover all that during the week and see what your guys do best. If your guys don't do something well, then don't do it. Do what they do well. And I think as a coach, you got to learn that. You get to know that in training camp and the spring ball and stuff like that. We had spring ball in the NFL too. A number of days that you can practice and stuff like that against each other. So you use those during the spring to see what your guys do well, and then try to put them in a position where they can succeed as much as you can. And sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's hard to find that. But for the most part, guys, if they get to that level, there's a reason they get to that level. And so, especially if you draft them in the first 3 rounds, if you draft them in the first 3 rounds, you better make sure they can play. Otherwise, they'll get you fired in a heartbeat. So we always try to do that, see what we needed, and then try to fit them in the Steeler way of doing things, you know. And in that case, I've always liked aggressive, hard-nosed guys who want to knock the crap out of you. Though I like physical guys and who could run. You can't. I always felt like you can't teach them to run fast, and you can't teach them to get after somebody. That's probably a part of their personality and part of their makeup. And so that was always big to me, and I always tried to if I could put them in a situation where they could succeed.
Who were some of the toughest players that you had to prepare for?
Oh, good gracious!
You and I were talking about Tom Brady. I mean, how do you approach stopping a guy like Tom Brady? Or
well, he was, he could check at the line of scrimmage, so he was a very smart football player. They gave him a lot of opportunities too to check at the line of scrimmage. So you had to. What quarterbacks read in the NFL is they come up and look at the secondary. They look at the safeties. First thing they look at is safeties. Okay. If the safeties are showing what we call a single high, which means one of the safeties is coming down into the box, the other one's going to the deep third. And what that means is in NFL, there's 8 gaps you have to defend in a running game. And you can't defend those 8 gaps unless you bring one of the safeties down into the box to help you take care of those gaps. So in order to do that, you have what we call a single high. And then when you have 2 highs, it means it's cover 2. We call it cover 2. It was a better pass defense, but you could only cover in the running game. You can only cover 7 gaps, and they got 8 gaps to use. So cover 2 wasn't as good as a run defense as the single high was. So we kind of divided up things like that and how we're going to get it and what people were trying to do and what Brady was trying to do. And Brady always did a good job of his pre-snap read, and he always tried to go on different counts and stuff like that. So what you do with the safeties, you try to hold them into a certain position until right before the snap, and then they got to get to where they got to get to. And then what he did, and make you show what he showed to him what you're doing before you did that. So he was real good at doing that, and they did a good job of coaching him on that too, coaching him up on that and getting you into those situations. So he was good. I mean, he was good at changing up the count. He was good at changing up his cadence. And that made it tough for everybody.
So it's not only mind games against the other offensive coordinator, it's mind games against the quarterback as well.
Yeah, the quarterback and the safeties.
Yeah.
You look at those. Look at all. If you go back next time you watch a game, watch the quarterback and see what he's looking at.
Yeah.
And what I always try to do with our guys is try to see if they can get a pre-snap read. And a pre-snap read, what I mean by that is the offensive line. Usually those guys don't think about what Brady's thinking about. They're thinking about, I got to block that guy right there. I got to come off the ball, knock him off the ball, or I got to get back and make sure he don't beat me in the rush game and all that stuff. You got somebody like T.J. Watt coming off the edge, and then if they got to block him, they're going to sit on their heels because they got to get off the ball and try to protect against him. If they're going to run the ball, then we call it white knuckle. They'll get down hard and be leaning heavy into the line of scrimmage. Then a lot of times you can get a pre-snap read where they're going to run or pass. And if you do, then I always thought it helped linebackers in particular to get an anticipation of what they're trying to do.
Let's go back in a little bit for a moment to 1996. You're the defensive coordinator at Memphis, and you've got to face the Tennessee Volunteers and a quarterback by the name of Peyton Manning. and you throw a little bit of a monkey wrench into the system and confuse them just a little bit with a 3-4 defense and work the zone blitz. How did all that go down? You ended up winning 21-17. How did all that go down?
Well, it was. I'm partial to the 34 defense, and always have been, because it gives you more of a chance to change up how many people you're rushing. You know, if you got a 4-man front, everybody knows who's rushing. You know, if you've got a 34 front and you want to rush 4, which 4 are going to rush? You got a lot of different choices in terms of who's rushing, who's not. If you can coordinate it with the secondary in terms of whether it's going to be a single high or 2 high, then it makes it tougher to read as a quarterback. And if you can cause the quarterback to delay his read for a half a second, then it's too long. It's too long for him, because he's going to get sacked, or he's going to make the wrong decision, or you're going to make him make wrong decisions sometimes. And that's what you try to do with quarterbacks. And not saying that we did that with Peyton, because Peyton was a very smart quarterback. I mean, not just there, but when we played them, the Colts, we played them in the NFL. We beat them on the way to the Super Bowl one time too. And so I had the good luck to beat Peyton a couple of times. But Peyton comes from a background of knowledgeable. His dad was knowledgeable. You know, I played against his dad, and so he came from a family who knew the game, and it was always fun to me to play against guys like that, because it brought out the best in me. You know, because if I wanted to win, or if we wanted to win, I had to be on top of my stuff. You know, if I didn't, then, you know, I was going to get my butt beat, and or get our butt beat, not just mine. It was all of us. But the thing about the Mannings is they know. I mean, they knew the game, and they know the game. And to me, to be successful at the NFL, is you have to be selfless. Selfless means I ain't worried about how many sacks I'm getting. I ain't worried about how many tackles I'm making. I ain't worried about how many interceptions I'm getting. I'm more concerned about what are my guys doing in front of me? What is everybody doing in front of me? So I know where my help is, so they know where their help is. And I always do what I'm supposed to do, and be dependable in being where I'm supposed to be, when I'm supposed to be there. And that matters a whole lot, not just a little bit, a whole lot. And if you can get guys to do that, then you got a chance to be pretty good defensively, pretty good as a team, pretty good as a Super Bowl champion.
Let's go back even further. You were born in Anniston, and you grew up in Huntsville. You went to Lee Huntsville High School. What were some early events that shaped you, and when did you start playing football?
I started playing football when I was 6. My brothers, my dad coached us when we were in Pee Wee football. He coached us, and my brothers played before me, and we end up when you're the youngest boy, you get the stew beat out of you a few times by your brothers. So they kind of toughen you up a little bit. And I was fortunate to have my brothers the way I did, and they were we were always competitive. Our family was always competitive, and in Pee Wee football. We got had a lot of fun playing Pee Wee football and playing throughout the years, all the way up to junior high school and in the high school. The hard thing for me thinking about that, going to Lee High School, we got to my sophomore year and they split the school up. They had built Huntsville, Redstone Arsenal is where my dad worked all his life. You know, that's where he earned a living and stuff like that. And Redstone Arsenal was, they called it Rocket City.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they called it Rocket City was because they built all the rockets there and stuff like that for everybody to go to the moon. And that was always big for us. And so I remember the 3 astronauts got killed in trying to take off one time. And one of them was Johnson, the other one was Grissom, and the other one was, I forgot who the other one, the third one was. But anyway, they split up Lee High School, and J.O. Johnson, they built J.O. Johnson High School my sophomore year. And so they split us up. So at the time, Keith Wilson was the head coach at the time. So as a consequence, a lot of the good players from our high school went to J.O. Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And so we struggled, man. We struggled my junior and my senior year. We go 1-9 at the time. And then the year before, we were like 50-50 in terms of winning. And so we never got to the playoffs and went to the state or anything like that. And so as a consequence, Alabama didn't recruit me, didn't recruit my brother. And I don't blame them because we didn't win any games.
You think it was because you were flying under the radar a little bit?
Well, probably so.
Yeah.
Probably so. I don't know. Might have been so or not, but I think I was a late bloomer.
Mm-hmm.
And probably got better as I got in college.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably was offered a scholarship off my brother's coattails because he was a
Mm-hmm.
well-known good football player. And so he ended up going to Memphis, and I'm not sure that they didn't make a deal with him that, hey, you're going to take them both or get none of them, So they did. They ended up taking both of us, so both of us went to Memphis at the time.
You ended up making All-American at Memphis, and then you got drafted in the 78 NFL draft, 36 pick. Played your entire 10-year career in Seattle.
Right.
And when you think about the late 70s, early 80s Seattle Seahawks, you think about obviously yourself, Jim Zorn, Steve Largent, Dave Craig,
right.
Those guys, and then later on Brian Bosworth. What were your fondest memories of that franchise and also living in Seattle?
Boy, Seattle was a long way from the microphone now, I'm telling you. That was hard because it was way away from my parents, and we had like I said, my family, there were 6 of us, and there were 7 years between the oldest and youngest. We all played sports. We all did. That was big for my family. And what was hard was both my parents worked to try to support the family, so it was hard for them to get up and just come to Seattle whenever they wanted to. They couldn't do that. So they as much as they wanted to see us play, they didn't get to see us play a lot, and just on TV sometimes. And then I think we got them up there about 3 or 4 times when I was playing up there. My wife and I did try to get them up there as much as we could. So that was a hard part of it, I think for them at that point in time. But being in Seattle, it was good for me because it showed me a different world. The Pacific Northwest is a different world than the South, and it was good for me because of the people. I mean. Steve Largent and Jim Zorn were good people, great people. A guy named Dave Brown from the University of Michigan. He was a DB, and he was a smart Yankee. You know what I mean? So I didn't.
Where
like
was he
him.
from?
Huh?
Where was
he? Was from Michigan.
Okay.
He was from Michigan, and I didn't like him because he was a Yankee. So he gave me crap all the time. As a rookie, he was a couple years ahead of me. So he gave me crap. He was in my crap all the time. You know what I mean? So I got mad at him a few times, but he got saved by Christ, and it changed his life big time. And that changed his life.
While he was playing for the Seahawks?
While he was playing for the Seahawks,
Yeah.
Yep. And Largent and Zorn had a big part of that,
Yeah.
you know, at the time. And my mom was a choir director at church all this time, but I went to church all my life.
Yeah.
I kind of went away from it, and did all the things that stupid kids do. I say stupid kids, I was one of them.
Yeah, I can certainly relate to that.
Yeah, and that was part of my early years at Seattle, first 2 years at Seattle. And then Dave Brown came to Christ, and his life, the change in his life really affected me at the time. So we had a lot of guys up there who were Christians, and they weren't critical of you in terms of, you know, you doing the stuff that the world tells you should do and all that. So I got influenced, especially by Dave Brown and a guy named Sherman Smith, who was a running back for us up there at the time. There's a guy up there too named Ken Hutchinson who was from the state of Alabama, and he was a preacher. And all these guys were black and I was white. Okay, growing up in Alabama, black and white all your life, you know, and all the stuff that we've gone through the years in terms of racial disagreements, and so. It's funny how God does stuff.
Yeah.
And you really, it's really not debatable whether God did it or not, because He makes it undebatable. And so that's what happened with me, a big change in my life. And probably not only my life, but my wife's life. Both of us at the time, and I don't know if we'd made it if it wasn't for that. So that was probably the most important thing that's ever happened to me.
That's awesome. Let's go back to the Steelers for a minute. And, you know, when you think about the Steelers franchise, I mean, you think about defense. I mean, like a buddy of mine, you know, he always imitates John Facenda's NFL Films voice. You know, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense was impenetrable. You know, and when you think about just the blue collar mentality and Mean Joe Green and Jack Lambert and Jack all those guys, is that the thing more than anything that's probably defined the franchise?
Probably so, because they won 4 Super Bowls. You know, and there's a reason they won 4 Super Bowls was because they had, number one, they had a good defense, and number two, they ran the ball well. You know, and so that's probably stuck in my mind more than anything else. My philosophy was, number one, hey, stop the run. Number two, get after them after you stop the run. You know, blitz them if you can, put pressure on the quarterback if you can. So that's what always been my mentality. In terms of playing football is, hey, number one, stop the run so they can't possess the ball. If you don't, I mean, that's what, you know, I don't want to say this to Mike, but Mike knows this because I've always preached that to him since I've known him, that you can't let somebody run for 300 yards on you and they're going to win football games. You can't do it. And so if you got somebody who is good at running the football, their play action is a lot more effective in terms of throwing the ball. So I think you got to try to make them get into situations where you know they're going to throw the ball, and then either mix it up and play coverage with them, or get after them in terms of blitzes sometimes. So I wanted to try to do that if I could.
You mentioned personnel a few minutes ago, and what I'm interested in is when you approach an NFL draft, you know, what type of player are you looking for, and then are you able to have some conversations with the GM about maybe what you're looking for?
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up, because usually this time of year, when how many guys are still left in the playoffs? what about 6 teams?
Yeah, we're at the semis now.
Yeah.
Of the conference semis.
Yeah. So everybody else should be preparing for the combine. You know, when the combine comes and all that stuff, they've got to meet the players. The scouts have determined who's going to be drafted high, who ain't going to be drafted high, and what usually happens is they have their own thinking in terms of who they think are going to be high draft choices and who aren't. What you have to do as a coach is you got to go in and as a coordinator, I had to look at like 50 guys, you know, and then in order to study those guys, you have to watch 4 games or 3 or 4 games from their last year, and to see what kind of players they are, and see what they do best and see what they struggle with, you know. So or try to determine that, and then you go in and you stack the board, what we call stack the board. You try to put people up there that you want, that you think fits what we do, and so you try to do all that in terms of preparing for the draft, and then when the draft happens, then you have 3 days of mini camps. And I don't know if they have 2 of them this year, this time or not, but they might. In any case, you get a mini camp, and then you get some what we call OTAs, organized training activities.
Mm-hmm.
You get those so many during the off season. Then you start the preseason and start training camp and stuff like that, and then try to develop all that. From what you've looked at in terms of the film and stuff like that. The film study is probably the most important thing at that point in time before the draft. And then after the draft, and getting them in and seeing for yourself how they learn. Because you try to interview them at the combine for the guys, especially the guys who are going to be drafted high. You try to interview them and try to get an idea of their football knowledge and to me, I tried to find out how selfish they were, if they were selfish. I'm hoping they weren't at the time, because I've always believed this, and I will believe this until the day I die. Is football is a team sport. And in order to have a good team, you got to have a bunch of selfless guys that think the team is more important than them.
But ultimately, it's the GM's decision, right? I mean,
yes, it is.
The buck stops with the GM.
It does. It starts with the GM, but the head coach has got at the Steelers anyway. The head coach has got a big say so.
Yeah.
And the head coach usually, if he knows his assistants, he usually has a good idea about what they think too.
You know, this franchise, and I'm talking about the Steelers, is absolutely chock full of legends. I mean, I could name probably 30, 40 Pittsburgh Steelers players just right off the top of my head. And you think about Terry Bradshaw and Lynn Swann and Troy Polamalu and all these guys. And who were some people that when they walked in the facility that the players kind of stood up and took notice? Could be Coach Null.
Yeah. When they come back to see them and all that. Yeah. Anytime those guys did that, but those guys come back few and far between.
Yeah.
I mean, they do sometimes, but sometimes they don't. You know, most of the time, Lambert would get some guys. You know what I mean? Him and Ham both.
Yeah.
Would get some guys. Because they knew those guys. Lambert was a skinny dude, but that dude was tough as nails.
Yeah.
You know, and that's to the Pittsburgh Steelers locker room. That's admirable. You know, to those guys. That guy would knock the stew out of you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what you always wanted. That's what I always wanted as a linebacker coach and as a defense coordinator, I wanted guys on the defense that they're gonna jack you up, and that's the way I tried to play the game all my life, and I felt like that's the only way to play the game, because it's a physical football game, and if that's part of the mentality that you've got to have in order to win. You've got to be physical, and if they can do that, they'll carry on what has gone on with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Lambert was living proof of that. A skinny guy, that skinny as all get out, but he's still gonna knock the stew out of you. You know what I mean? And he was very highly competitive.
Yeah.
And we had some guys like that. I had some linebackers like that. James Harrison was, the guy wasn't drafted. We didn't draft him. We cut him twice, and then he came back, and then he's getting sacks all over the place. He's bull strong. I mean, the play that he made in Super Bowl, what was it, 43? Yeah, it was 43. We're playing Arizona, and I was watching him on the sideline, and they're down on the 1 yard line, and we're playing the goal line defense, and he's supposed to be coming off the edge. And so I'm watching him in particular because I didn't know if he had any idea what he was doing at that time. And so he takes a step at the daggum tackle, and he sits right there. He didn't come off the bar or anything. He just sits right there. And so the quarterback looks up and throws him the ball and hits him right in the face with it, and he takes off for 100 yards, scores a touchdown, at the time. And I can remember going, "Jacob and James, go, go, go," So he ended up scoring.
You actually talked to him like that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I got on him. I got after them. If they know you played the game, they'll have respect for you and stuff like that. And they know you know the game. They know that you know what you're talking about.
And the thing that blows my mind is, I mean, you've got to be much of a man to talk to those guys that.
Yeah.
An NFL player, especially that's chiseled out of marble, like James Harrison.
But see, the thing about it is, James has been cut twice.
Yeah.
And for that very reason. You know what I mean? I never had a problem with him.
Yeah.
Not one time.
Yeah.
If he doesn't think that you know what you're talking about, or he doesn't think that you ain't never done it, then he don't have much respect for you at the time. So I never had that problem with him the whole time. But he developed. I was proud of him because he developed himself, and he never gave up. And even though he got cut a couple of times and stuff like that, he never gave up trying to play the game, and he ended up, winning the Super Bowl for us. Really, running that 100-yard return.
So you get the call this year that you're going to be inducted into the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. Were you surprised, and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I was surprised. Because I know how much sports mean to the people of Alabama. And probably the thing I was sad about was my parents wasn't here to see that, because they obviously thought sports were important. And they were proud of being from the state of Alabama. They always, we always watched the Alabama-Auburn game. We never missed the Alabama-Auburn game. I don't think anybody in the state does, you know what I mean? So we were that type of family that it meant a lot to us in terms of the Little League baseball, the Pee Wee football, the Babe Ruth baseball, the senior Babe Ruth baseball, girls basketball. My dad coached all that stuff. And then my mom was always to every game with us as much as she could, And so even though she had 6 kids, and it was sometimes they had to split up and get us to different places, you know, and stuff like that. So it was big to me, and that was the reason because of the background.
Yeah.
And shoot, I mean, the people in Huntsville,
Yeah.
put this thing together, man. This is nice.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Well, Coach, we really appreciate you coming on, and I wish you the very best in retirement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate it.